Tar Heels, Drake May, Mack Brown, Carolina football are in a very, very unfortunate situation. Like, upsetting to me as a human. They are in the situation where a large part of their success this football season, a large part of the Tar Heels' success this football season depends on the NCAA, the powers that be, the committees, the power trip leaders of college sports, the NCAA being human, understanding life. That's what their season depends on. And guess what? The NCAA does not have a history of being very good at that. They don't have a history of being empathetic. They don't have a history of putting themselves in someone else's shoes. They just don't. North Carolina wide receiver Tez Walker has been denied as a 2-time transfer waiver. Now, there's context for this. Meaning, technically, he's been at 2 schools prior to being at North Carolina. Untechnically, there was a year that doesn't exist. He was at North Carolina Central for a COVID year where they didn't play football. Not in the fall, not in the spring. They didn't play. Everybody gets that eligibility back. So that year that didn't exist, he was at North Carolina Central. Then he transfers to Kent State, plays at Kent State, turns himself into a premier transfer, wants to transfer to North Carolina for reasons that are likely extremely commonsensical, if that's the word. Believable, logical, some would say necessary. And the NCAA swoops in and says, no, denied your waiver. Let's take this all the way back to square one. Okay, this is a problem within the NCAA. Mack Brown was at ACC kickoff. We were there as well in Charlotte. It feels like weeks ago. It could have been a week and a half. Who knows? This is what Mack Brown said about Tez Walker. Tez Walker is the most amazing story I've ever seen. Here's a young guy that signs with East Tennessee State, hurts his knee. They gray-shirt him, so he decides to go to NC Central instead of East Tennessee State. So already he shows up at NC Central having dealt with some adversity, right? He thinks he's going to East Tennessee. They gray-shirt him because of injury, which means he doesn't enroll. They want him to just not go to school for a semester and start a year later. He goes to NC Central. COVID hits. This comes back from the quote from Mack Brown. COVID hits, so he can't play. He transfers to Kent State. He has a great couple of years at Kent State. Then his whole coaching staff leaves. His grandmother is really sick. She's in Charlotte. She's never seen him play. He transfers back because that's where he wanted to be in the first place. He's going to get to have his grandmother see him play for the first time in Charlotte when they play South Carolina, and then she'll be able to drive to the home games. That's part of the story of Tez Walker. The difference is the NCAA came in and said, you're not eligible. And they need him. From a football standpoint, they need him. If he doesn't play, the season takes on an entire different feeling for North Carolina.
Yeah, 2022 season, Walker finished with 58 catches for 921 yards and 11 receiving touchdowns. And guess what? Drake May needs him because what does Drake May not have this year? Josh Downs. So any wide receiver that is available for Carolina, they need to be there to help Drake May.
And here's the thing. Yes, Josh Downs is gone. That's a lot of production. But also, when you have Drake May, which obviously North Carolina does, not breaking news there, you have kind of, I don't want to say the pick of all the transfers in the portal, but you get to be choosy, right? There's a lot of transfer portal players out there that, especially if they're pass catchers, want to come catch passes from Drake May.
Yeah.
Tez Walker was seen as, if he lives up to all of the expectations, a potential top 50 pick next year if he plays well alongside Drake May. So North Carolina could have taken a whole bunch of different wide receivers. They chose Tez Walker and Nate McCollum at Georgia Tech to be the transfers they bring in to help Drake May. To have one of them not show up, or not be able to play, not be eligible, not only is that a bummer because they were trusting him to help Drake May live up to his expectations, but it's a bummer because if they were expecting the NCAA to be a stickler and inhumane and callous and cold, they could have gone to get someone else.
And what's even more impactful about this, these two guys, Walker included, were projected to be either wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2.
Oh, Tez Walker, everything I've seen, he was already
going to be wide receiver 1.
He was already picked to be all ACC.
Yeah.
All of the media voted him to be all ACC preseason. The NCAA didn't clear his waiver. Now here's where I say you have to be human, okay? Here's where I say you have to look at the situation. Tez Walker released a statement and talked in his statement very emotionally about wanting to play closer to his grandmother. His grandmother helped raise him. His grandmother was a big force in his life, and he wanted to be closer. From Tez Walker's statement, this is a direct quote, "I want this to be over. I want to stop feeling like this. I just want to play. I want my grandmother to come watch me. I want to be a student and an athlete, and I hope those in charge give me that opportunity." Like, that is emotionally charged. Now, here's the question. What proof do you need that a family health situation is real and important? Because the NCAA is cracking down on these two-time transfers, but there are waivers available if you do have an immediate family medical situation, right? If you have to move home for a reason, you want to move home to be closer to a sick family member. But the gross part about it is everyone's going to assume that players will use that to come transfer to a school that they're transferring to for all football reasons and use a sick family member to do that. Listen, I've seen this happen before, okay? This is not my first time going down this path with the NCAA. Go back and look up Brock Hoffman. He was a offensive lineman at Coastal Carolina that transferred to Virginia Tech a few years ago. He's a member of the Cowboys now. And it got to the point, this is how disgusting the NCAA is. It got to the point where he was posting scans of his mother's brain that showed a tumor because he was saying, I want to move closer. I want to be within a drive of my parents. This is why. And the NCAA pushed him so far that he was posting the scan, something so personal about his mother, he was posting the scans. And I came up with this thought then, and it applies to this thought now for Tez Walker. I don't care if the NCAA gets duped a bunch. I don't care if 50 student athletes are using a sickness in the family to transfer for football reasons, and the NCAA feels like, oh gosh, they're overblowing a medical situation. I don't care if they get duped 50 times. That is much better than denying the one. That is being honest. If somebody is out there and legitimately wants to move closer to a sick mother, a sick grandmother, a tumor-battling family member, anything along those lines, if you turn them down, that's like, I want to make sure everyone using it for the right reason gets their right reason, right? Gets their and if you, oh my gosh, what's the end of the world is a few others get an extra transfer. I think you just got to kind of live with it, right? Err on the side of anyone that is telling you about their sick relative is being truthful and honest. And if the worst case scenario is a couple of college athletes get to transfer one more time than you'd like them to, that's the cost of doing business. It's disgusting, NCAA. Disgusting. Can't even comprehend. Can you imagine fielding those waivers? You're the one judging it. You have to look through and decide if a family's medical emergency is emergency enough to transfer. That's your, and then you go, no, denied, stamp it and send it back. It's not the job I want. Put it that way.